All right guys, this is Dan from Driver Motorsports, and today we have a super special treat for you guys. We're gonna be driving a 91 Honda NSX. Obviously, this thing's been pretty heavily modified on the exterior, Rega Masters, full aero, that's pretty insane. Performance-wise, it's just got a couple little things like exhaust, spoon brakes. Really, I'm just excited to drive this thing, so let's get it on the road. This is one of my favorite looking cars of all time. This is like number 2 on my JDM bucket list of cars that I would love to own one day, but just gorgeous styling. And then Sean Stees was the owner of this car. He bought this car from us back in like 2017. He's owned it for the last 3-4 years and has been, you know, modding it and doing all kinds of crazy stuff to it and enjoying the car. And then a guy back in Virginia bought it from him because he finally reached the point where he's, you know, I guess he decided to sell it. So we've got it back at the shop. We've been going through it and checking it over for the new owner, just kind of doing some maintenance stuff to it. And now we're enjoying it. So it's pretty insane and surreal to be driving this beautiful car. The NSX, I mentioned that it was Japan's first supercar, and it truly was. Honda was like, you know what, we want to do something different to kind of combat the Ferraris and the stuff in the 80s. So they came up with this prototype car. Oh, this thing sounds so unbelievable. And with the manual steering, it's heavy when you're making tight turns, but like on these windy roads that we are right now, like it just feels so planted and nice and heavy. So you really get that like feedback from the steering wheel and the front tires. It's pretty amazing. I mean, these cars are built for handling. It has double wishbone suspension that are also forged aluminum, and it just does exactly what you want to. When you sit in the passengers or in the driver's seat of this thing, it really is a cockpit. They were kind of taking a lot of design references off of like F-16 fighter jets. So if like you look at like kind of the roof line and like how the front facing driver's cabin works, it really does remind you of like an F-16 roof line. When you're sitting in here, it really does feel like a cockpit. You're really in here. You know, it's like snug, it's tight. A lot of that snugness helps from these Recaros. So this thing's lowered on TN coilovers, and it actually has airlift. If you needed to have a little extra wiggle room in a parking lot or something like that, you can just pop the whole car up in the air and get over speed bumps. Yeah, I want to hear it with the windows down. I gotta roll the windows down because I gotta hear this thing. It's got a little bit of raspiness to it too that you can't tell with the windows down. I'm stuck behind cars right now, so we're just my God, it sounds so good. NSX, when they were building this car, they wanted to make it lightweight, and they basically worked with their metal suppliers to come up with a super special aluminum, or if you're from Britain, aluminium chassis. So everything is made of aluminum on this chassis, which is pretty insane because you don't make cars out of aluminum. I mean, we do now because that technology's there, but 20, almost 30 years ago, no, definitely 30 years, because this is a 91. So 30 years ago, that technology wasn't quite there yet, so. Impressive about the V6 that's in this is from the factory it had forged pistons and it had titanium rods, which allows it to rev really fast and really go to the red line's at 8,000 RPM. Which, if you're talking about like 30 years ago, that was kind of unheard of. This was back when Honda was really getting back into like Formula One racing. So they kind of took a lot of the nudges from all their Formula One teams and took it to making this supercar. All right, let's give her a little run here. Gosh, this thing sounds absurd. I love it. And it literally, I mean, I was going to just before red line, so 7,800 RPM, and this thing just sings up top. It doesn't have a lot of that, like, that boost power for an NA engine. Like, you know, with us here at the shop, we drive a lot of turbo cars, so you kind of, it's like having, it's almost like having two sets of horsepower, really. So when you get into boost, it's like got the torque down low, and then you get into boost, and then there's like another shot of it. This is just really smooth. You do feel VTEC kick in, which is a little bit different sensation than boost, but you can tell when everything clicks over. The C38 engine that this has is a V6, 3-liter engine, and forged pistons and titanium rods from the factory, which is insane. And it also had its kind of breakthrough, or Honda's breakthrough VTEC system, which is pretty insane. What's really interesting is that Honda actually only sold 18,000 of this first gen NSX. And in the 91, which is what this year is, there was only 1,940 sold, which is pretty crazy that I'm driving one right now. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. Ooh, yeah, yeah. So before I close this thing out, we're gonna do one more pull here. We got a good stretch of road here, just so you guys can hear this thing. It's unbelievable. We'll do first gear too, so we'll go all the way through it. The torque initially in first gear is pretty insane. So here we go. VTEC. Got to slow down for this turn a little bit. thing is just a grip monster. Oh my gosh, I would love to have this thing on a track and really be able to like test its grip, because it's pretty phenomenal already. Granted, having big brakes helps a lot slow down on turns like that, and having Regamasters with some big beefy tires on there helps grip too, and having it lowered helps a little bit more. But like, the factory design of the suspension is designed to do exactly that. It's just to hook up and to go through turns like an F1 car. It's pretty insane. I want to personally thank the new owner for letting us do a review video and to get this thing out here and let people gawk at it and break necks. And also, that's a pretty good feeling as a driver to have people freak out a little bit, you know, when they see you kind of hauling through here. So it's really cool. This car is absolutely perfect. We're gonna have some cool videos coming up with this. We've got a dyno video. We've got some pretty cool stuff coming out. So be on the lookout for that. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you for the next review video.